picture the most confident person you can think of, like walking into a crowded room. Usually our brains conjure up this very specific, almost cinematic image.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Right. It's the person who sweeps in. They're incredibly loud, dominating the conversation, maybe cracking a joke that forces everyone to pivot and pay attention to them. It's a very noisy, almost aggressive kind of presence.
Yeah.
But when we were looking through the stack of sources you sent us for this custom deep dive, a totally different paradigm emerged.
It really did. The material you gathered builds this fascinating case that, well, that loud, dominating behavior isn't actually confidence at all.
Wait, really?
Not at all. It's often a highly socially acceptable form of overcompensation.
Overcompensation. Wow.
True confidence, the kind that the psychological guide in your notes calls dangerous confidence, makes practically no noise.
No noise?
Right. The highest form of confidence is simple, but structurally radical. It's reacting to nothing, and therefore letting nothing control your internal state.
Our mission today is to completely deconstruct and rebuild your understanding of this concept based on the insights in your research.
Exactly.
We're looking at the mechanics of becoming essentially untouchable. And just to be clear, this isn't about being dangerous to other people.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's about moving through the world with a quiet, steady power that operates completely independent of external approval. But to understand the mechanics of how confident people behave outwardly, the guide insists we have to start behind closed doors.
We have to look at the internal architecture first.
All right, the internal stuff.
Yeah, because the foundational argument across your sources is that outward confidence without internal self-respect is just, well, it's a fragile mask.
Just a mask.
Right. You can engineer the perfect body language, memorize the right things to say, but the moment you experience actual friction...
Or like social pushback.
Exactly. That mask just splinters. True confidence is an emergent property of how you treat yourself when no one is watching. You are constantly teaching your own brain what your baseline value is through microactions.
I found the mechanics of this particularly striking because the text points out that respect isn't born from, well, it's not about massive world-altering achievements like winning an industry award or a Nobel Prize. It's built on a foundation of seemingly mundane daily choices. It's waking up at the time you set your alarm for.
Yes.
It's walking away from a conversation that degrades you instead of staying and, trying to win the other person's approval. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you generate a data point.
You're touching on the concept of neuroplasticity there and the brain's reward prediction error.
Okay, unpack that for us.
So when you set an intention and execute it, even something as small as making the bed, your brain releases a microdose of dopamine.
Just from making the bed?
Just from making the bed. Because it reinforces the neural circuit that says, I'm an agent capable of executing my will.
Oh, wow.
Over time, this shifts your internal locus of control. The brain operates on a very simple algorithm here. It maps reality based on repetition.
Which brings up the thermostat analogy from your notes, which really clarified things for me.
Oh, the thermostat analogy is brilliant.
Yeah, so the inner voice acts like an emotional and psychological thermostat. If your internal narrative is a constant loop of, I'm not cut out for this, everyone is judging me.
Your physical body actually responds to that perceived threat.
Exactly. You take up less space, your cortisol levels rise, but if that internal thermostat is set to, I am highly capable, you walk in taller.
And crucially, if your thermostat is set low, external validation won't fix it.
Right. You could get the promotion and the applause, but the thermostat will eventually drag your baseline back down, leading to self-sabotage.
The biological reality of that thermostat is the default mode network in the brain.
The default mode network.
Yeah. It controls our mind wandering and internal monologue. And the material is very specific about taking active, conscious control over this network.
Because if you don't,
if you leave it on autopilot, human negativity bias will naturally steer it towards self-criticism. It's trying to protect you from perceived social risks.
Now, when looking at the notes you sent us, I did hit a mental roadblock here.
Oh.
Yeah, I struggle with the practical application of this. If I'm actively failing at something, say a project is completely falling apart, physically forcing myself to say, I am brilliant and I belong here, feels like delusion.
Like toxic positivity.
Exactly. It feels like toxic positivity. How does the source material reconcile that gap between reality and the inner voice?
The text actually draws a hard line between delusion and cognitive reframing.
Okay.
Dangerous confidence is not about gaslighting yourself when the data says you're failing. It is about replacing fatalistic, destructive language with architectural building language.
So shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Precisely. Instead of your inner voice saying, I have completely ruined this project and I'm a failure, the deliberate intervention is, this project is currently failing. The situation is incredibly difficult, but I possess the cognitive resources to figure out the next step.
I love that. So it's about acknowledging the objective reality of the struggle, but speaking to yourself from a position of agency rather than victimhood.
You're training your mind to be a collaborative partner.
And the guide lays out a very specific 30-day challenge for you to test this out.
Yes, the morning phrases.
Right. Every morning, you look at yourself and say 3 specific phrases out loud. Quote, I respect myself. I can handle anything that comes today. I don't need anyone's approval to move forward.
And the requirement to speak those phrases out loud, rather than just thinking them, is deeply tied to auditory feedback loops.
The auditory feedback loops. Why is out loud so important?
Well, when you vocalize a thought, you engage the motor cortex to produce the speech and the auditory cortex to process hearing it.
Oh, so you're hitting it from both sides.
Exactly. You are hitting the brain's processing centers from multiple angles, which accelerates the rewriting of that default mode network. By day 20, the physical manifestation of that rewritten circuit becomes visible in your posture and your baseline anxiety levels.
That sets up the bridge to the next major concept perfectly. Because once you have that internal thermostat stabilized, it dramatically alters how you project yourself externally. But the biggest revelation in the sources isn't about adding new dominant behaviors to your repertoire. The external shield of confidence is almost entirely built on subtraction.
Contraction, yes.
Yes.
It's about eliminating the friction and the energy leaks.
And the primary leak the text identifies is the compulsion to over-explain ourselves.
Oh, we all do this.
We see this constantly, and I mean, I've definitely fallen into the trap. You show up a few minutes late to a casual meeting, and instead of just saying, thanks so much for your patience, you launch into a breathless, highly detailed monologue. Like, oh, the traffic was bad, my alarm clock didn't go off, there was construction on the highway. We essentially submit a legal defense for our existence.
It is a classic appeasement behavior.
Appeasement behavior.
Yeah, from an evolutionary psychology perspective, we over-explain because our brain registers potential disapproval from the group as a survival threat.
A survival threat, just from being late.
Exactly. We dumped all this unnecessary information in a desperate bid to manage the other person's perception of us. We are signaling submission to avoid conflict. But every unnecessary excuse sends a loud, silent broadcast. I require your validation to feel physically and emotionally safe in this interaction.
It's like operating as a weather vane instead of a gyroscope.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. If you're a weather vane, you're constantly spinning, desperately trying to align with whichever way the social wind blows to avoid friction. But the confident person operates like a gyroscope. They maintain their own internal equilibrium regardless of external turbulence. They don't hand over the calibration controls to strangers.
And the practical application of this gyroscope mentality is embracing the full stop.
The full stop.
Yes. If someone questions a choice you made, and it doesn't objectively require a detailed operational breakdown, you don't offer a thesis defense.
You just keep it simple.
Right. A calm, measured, I chose this route because it aligns with my current priorities, followed by absolute silence.
Which is incredibly disarming.
It really is.
The silence is the active ingredient there. It acts as a circuit breaker. But holding that silence is terrifying because human beings possess a profound psychological aversion to a conversational vacuum.
We really do.
We just rush to fill the dead air to ease our own internal tension.
And that tension is exactly why silence is such a potent tool, especially in conflict.
How so?
Well, when someone attempts to provoke you or throws a thinly veiled insult your way, they are actively hunting for a reaction.
They want you to get mad.
They want a spike in your cortisol levels.
Yeah.
They want you to get defensive, to raise your voice, to show that they have successfully infiltrated your emotional perimeter.
They want proof of their own power over you.
Yes.
But if you respond to a provocation with absolute unblinking silence, you deny them the transaction.
You give them nothing to push against.
Right.
If they push and you remain entirely static, the kinetic energy of their provocation reflects right back onto them. The spotlight shifts, and they are left standing there looking erratic and foolish.
Choosing silence isn't passive. It's a highly active tactical pause that proves your emotional state is governed entirely by you.
Speak less, command more.
Exactly. And the sources point out that this philosophy extends seamlessly into physical space. Your body is broadcasting your internal state before your vocal cords even vibrate. But the text doesn't just say stand up straight. It gets into the biological feedback loop of proprioception.
Right, proprioception. That's your brain's awareness of your body's position in space.
And the brain monitors this constantly, right?
Yes. The brain doesn't just send commands to the body. It constantly monitors the body's physical state to decide what emotional state it should be in.
So if you're slouched over,
If you are physically collapsing, inward slouching, crossing your arms tightly, avoiding eye contact, your brain interprets that physical compression as a signal of vulnerability. It prepares for a threat.
so by forcing an expansion of your posture, rolling the shoulders back, opening the chest, you are physically overriding that threat response.
Exactly. You are mechanically lowering your own heart rate by giving your lungs more room to expand, which signals the vagus nerve that you are safe.
You are literally tricking your nervous system into confidence until it becomes genuine.
Alongside posture, the material highlights the mechanics of eye contact.
Oh, this part was fascinating.
Yeah, in primate social structures, staring is a threat display, but gaze aversion is a submission display.
So looking away means you're submitting.
Right. The confident middle ground is sustained, relaxed observation.
And the specific tactic from the guide is to hold eye contact just a single second longer than your baseline comfort level.
Just 1 second.
Right? It isn't an aggressive, unblinking stare down. It's just a micro moment of asserting your physical presence. It communicates, I perceive you, and I am entirely unbothered by being perceived in return.
I love that phrase.
It's a great exercise for you to try this week. When you feel the urge to over-explain, use a single firm sentence, maintain that eye contact for 1 extra second, and let the silence do the heavy lifting.
That combination of brevity and physical expansion creates an aura of undeniable solidity.
But we have to address the reality of application.
Right.
Because implementing this in a low-stakes environment like a coffee shop is one thing. Maintaining that structural integrity when you are facing actual high-stakes pressure is an entirely different discipline.
It really is.
This is where the guide transitions from the appearance of confidence to the forging of deep competence.
The text utilizes a gym analogy here, but it goes much deeper than just lift heavy things. It's about stress inoculation training. If you only ever lift 2-pound dumbbells, your muscle fibers never experience the micro tears necessary to trigger hypertrophy, the process of growth.
And mental resilience requires the exact same physiological adaptation.
Exactly. Confidence simply cannot be synthesized in a sterile, comfortable environment.
You have to actively hunt for discomfort to build the database of evidence your brain requires.
Yes. When people construct their lives to avoid any situation that might stretch them or risk failure, they inadvertently nurture a profound underlying insecurity.
Because they know they haven't been tested.
Right. They know deep down that they have zero empirical proof of their own capacity to survive a crisis.
They have no data to back up their inner voice. So when they try to use the thermostat and tell themselves, I can handle this, the amygdala immediately fires back, can't we? Because our historical data shows we have literally never navigated a high-risk scenario. The only way to rewrite that historical data is by stepping into the unknown. And the sources pinpoint the ultimate unknown that paralyzes
Rejection.
the fear of rejection.
To understand why rejection is so paralyzing, we have to look at the biology of social exclusion.
Okay, let's get into the biology.
Neuroimaging studies have shown that the brain processes social rejection in the anterior cingulate cortex.
The anterior cingulate cortex.
Right. And that is the exact same region that processes physical pain.
Wait, really? Physical pain?
Literally. Because to your primitive brain, being rejected by the tribe meant starvation and death. The pain is a biological alarm system.
That makes so much sense. We treat a no as a literal threat to our survival. We take it as a final, definitive ruling on our fundamental worth as a human being.
But the radical reframe the guy proposes is learning to decouple the biological pain from your identity.
So how do confident people do that?
They actively short-circuit that biological alarm. They train themselves to view a no merely as neutral data. It is structural feedback.
Just data.
Right. It simply means this specific variable did not align at this specific time. It isn't a judgment on their soul. By removing the emotional weight from the rejection, they clear the cognitive bandwidth needed to analyze the feedback and adapt.
But practically speaking, how do you bridge the gap between getting crushed by a massive failure and standing back up?
That's the hard part.
Right. Like, you seek the discomfort, you take a massive calculated risk, and it goes spectacularly wrong. You are left with that raw anterior cingulate pain. How do you materialize confidence out of that wreckage?
The profound insight from the text is that you don't materialize it. You don't conjure it through sheer willpower. True confidence is simply the byproduct of extreme competence.
Extreme competence.
Yes. You eliminate self-doubt through the physical act of myelination.
Myelination, what is that?
It's the process where your brain coats frequently use neural pathways in a fatty substance called myelin. This makes the signals travel faster and more efficiently.
Oh, it's the transition from conscious effort to unconscious mastery.
Precisely. Consider a high-level surgeon or a professional pilot.
Okay.
When they encounter a critical complication, they aren't standing there reciting positive affirmations to convince themselves they know what to do.
Right, they just act.
Because the repetition of their training has built such thick myelin sheaths around those skills that the execution becomes instinctual. They have put in the reps under varied, stressful conditions until their physical actions produce undeniable empirical certainty.
So the antidote to crippling self-doubt isn't striking a power pose in the mirror. If you are terrified of public speaking or leading a high-stakes negotiation, the solution is brutal, unglamorous preparation.
Unglamorous preparation is exactly it.
You read the literature, you record yourself, you analyze the flaws, you practice until the material is embedded in your muscle memory. Certainty is earned, not manifested.
It is the shift from hoping you are capable to possessing the receipts that prove you are capable.
I love that. Possessing the receipts.
And when you stack all of these elements together, when you have stabilized the internal thermostat, mastered the physical and verbal tools of subtraction, and forged undeniable competence through stress inoculation, you unlock what the text considers the peak state.
The highest, most dangerous level of confidence.
Which is total systemic independence from the chaos surrounding you.
Let's walk through a scenario to see how this operates in the wild.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine a severe crisis at work. The main server goes down, critical data is inaccessible, millions of dollars are hemorrhaging, and the room is instantly flooded with panic.
Oh, pure chaos.
People are moving frantically, their breathing is shallow, their voices are sharp and elevated. It's a collective amygdala hijack. What is the precise mechanism the truly confident person uses to take control?
They do the exact opposite of what the environment dictates. They deliberately engage their parasympathetic nervous system.
So they don't match the energy of the room.
No, because when chaos hits, the default human instinct is to match the frenetic energy of the room. But the confident leader consciously overrides that. They anchor their feet. They artificially slow their breathing to a deep diaphragmatic rhythm.
Which lowers cortisol.
Right. It immediately signals their brain to lower cortisol production.
It's entirely counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Chaos feeds on noise and speed. If you match the room's panic with increased volume and rapid movements, you act as an amplifier for the panic.
Mm-hmm.
But if you drop the pitch of your voice, speak at half the speed of everyone else, and move with extreme deliberation, you become a grounding rod.
Because in a crisis, a regulated nervous system is the rarest and most valuable resource in the room.
It really is.
Humans are deeply influenced by emotional contagion. When you introduce a radically calm presence into a panic system, the system will naturally orient around the strongest, most stable signal.
But maintaining that calm baseline long-term requires a ferocious commitment to your own boundaries.
Absolutely. The guide makes it clear that public composure is funded by private boundary maintenance.
Funded by private boundary maintenance. And the foundational rule of boundary setting is internalizing that the word no is a complete structural sentence.
Yes. It does not require a supporting thesis.
You don't have to explain it.
Right. If you fail to build robust boundaries, the natural entropy of human relationships will simply consume whatever time and energy you leave unguarded. You will exist in a perpetual state of depletion.
Which ruins your confidence.
Exactly.
Right.
Enforcing a boundary is drawing a definitive line in the sand that communicates my psychological peace is an uncompromisable asset. And the text offers a brilliant heuristic here.
Oh, the diagnostic tool.
Yes, if an individual becomes angry or hostile when you establish a boundary, that friction is the absolute confirmation that the boundary was urgently necessary.
That is a phenomenal diagnostic tool. Their hostility is the empirical proof that they were relying on your lack of boundaries for their own benefit. The people who value you will adapt to the boundary. The people who are extracting value from you will revolt.
Which logically flows into the final and perhaps most difficult pillar of the peak state, the practice of outcome detachment.
Outcome detachment. This is where Stoicism intersects with neuroscience.
Exactly.
We are deeply conditioned, practically from birth, to tether our dopamine systems and our core identity to external results. Did the client sign the contract? Did the audience applaud? Did the relationship survive?
Right.
If the external result is positive, our identity is secure. If the result is negative, our identity shatters. We ride this exhausting, volatile, emotional roller coaster.
And to step off that roller coaster, you have to transition from an extrinsic reward system to an intrinsic one.
So relying on yourself instead of outside validation.
Right. Dangerous confidence requires focusing the entirety of your cognitive bandwidth on the variables you possess, total control over your strategic preparation, your sustained effort, your integrity of action. You anchor your identity to the quality of your execution, and you aggressively release the outcome.
Because the outcome involves thousands of variables. You've got market conditions, other people's trauma, sheer luck things that you have absolutely zero influence over. When you detach your self-worth from the result, you neutralize anyone's ability to manipulate you. A toxic boss or a manipulative partner can no longer dangle a reward or threaten a loss to make you act out of desperation because your internal value is self-generated.
This culmination brings us to the final evolution the guide describes, living as if you need nothing.
Need nothing. That sounds intense.
It's crucial to understand the nuance here. It does not advocate for extreme asceticism. It doesn't mean you become an emotionless android who rejects wealth, ambition, or deep human connection.
Okay, good.
It means you are not fundamentally dependent on those external acquisitions to feel structurally whole.
Because neediness operates as a subconscious repellent.
It really does.
When you harbor a desperate, gnawing need for someone to validate you, it infects your behavior.
Yeah.
You hyper-monitor their reactions, you suppress your own opinions, you become a chameleon. People can intuitively detect that energetic deficit, and it makes them deeply uncomfortable. It pushes them away.
Conversely, when you navigate the world with an established baseline of internal abundance, when you thoroughly enjoy your successes and your relationships, but you possess the absolute certainty that you will remain structurally sound if they vanish, you generate a magnetic gravity.
A magnetic gravity.
Yes. You are operating from a foundation of sovereign choice rather than a deficit of hunger. You cannot be coerced, you cannot be bribed, and you cannot be broken by external forces.
We become untouchable.
Exactly.
So when we synthesize this massive stack of research you sent us, what is the ultimate operational blueprint for you, the listener? We've dismantled the loud, dominant stereotype. We've learned that true confidence is the architectural result of daily, unglamorous choices. It's rewriting the default mode network of your inner voice from a fatalistic critic to a collaborative partner.
It's the biological adaptation that occurs when you actively seek out friction and put in the reps until your confidence becomes an unconscious reflex.
And it's recognizing the appeasement behavior of over-explaining and replacing it with the tactical power of silence and expanded physical presence. And it's the rigorous enforcement of your own boundaries, protecting your internal peace so you can remain the calmest, most analytical entity in a room full of chaos.
The most vital takeaway from your sources is that none of this requires you to construct a fake persona. You aren't learning how to act like an alpha.
Right. It's not an act.
The entire process is subtractive. It is the systematic removal of the insecurities, the appeasement behaviors, and the desperate need for external validation that have been interfering with the strongest, most capable version of your existing self.
It's about stripping away the noise. As you integrate this into your life this week, we want to leave you with one final, very tangible scenario to run through your mind. It takes the theory we've discussed and drops it right in the very next time to drag you manufactured drama, or you feel that familiar biological justify perfectly valid what would actually happen to your breath, your ground.